You talk to demons.
We're going to have to do a demonic ritual.
You're going to hell.
God?
Satan!
What else? You need to find Jesus, read a Bible.
Jesus said, "Come to me, all who are weary."
Read this Bible verse here.
Read your Bible.
Already did, cover to cover.
Really?
Quiz me.
My advice to you is to stay with the faith of your parents.
Don't listen to her. She's a witch.
Witch! Witch! Witch!
She will lead you astray. What else? Do not listen to false prophets.
I was led astray by a false prophet and I forgot my keys.
Enjoy burning in hell, witch.
Witch burner!
And so on and so forth. I am entirely used to being bullied on the internet by religious individuals, mostly by Christians, but by people of various religions. I'm incredibly used to that and really no longer bat an eye at it. But there is a new breed of online bullies that have been rearing their heads lately.
She's crazy. Largely
on Facebook, sometimes in YouTube Shorts, occasionally on TikTok, and those are the atheists. And let me preface this video by saying I am absolutely open and agree that everybody needs to form their own opinion.
Your path is yours to walk, and yours alone.
And everybody is entitled to their own opinion. What everyone is not entitled to is to jump on one another's posts and berate one another, abuse one another, be unkind to one another, or spend hours upon hours upon hours arguing with one another in the comment section. I think that social media, while absolutely incredible for spreading information and teaching one another about belief systems that maybe we hadn't been apprised of in the past, maybe we didn't even know that belief systems of other people were out there, or we didn't know that certain avenues of life or life paths or types of people or schools of thought were in existence before social media existed. It's also a double-edged sword because social media brings out some of the worst parts of humanity as well.
It was really late and I was fighting with someone from high school online.
For example, some of the things that are said to me on the internet, which the majority of I delete. I just delete.
Erased from existence.
People wouldn't walk up to me on the street and say that to my face. They do it because they can hide behind a screen name, the lack of a profile photo, and a keyboard. Additionally, when you find viral videos of others and you go to the comment section and you see strangers literally fighting in the comments. So say it's about politics or religion or whatever the subject matter. When you find people fighting and going at each other in the comments, those same people would not do that face to face. If Joe and Sally are fighting about politics for 3 hours of a Tuesday night, going back and forth in the comment section on TikTok, Joe and Sally would just walk right past one another on the sidewalk, none the wiser about one another's political nor religious affiliations on that same Tuesday night if it were not for the existence of social media. And even if they did know one another's religious or political affiliations, even if they did say they were wearing a t-shirt that advertised their political affiliations, those people would just walk right past one another. 95% of people would not have the gall to insult one another on the street face to face. Social media has warped behavior of human beings, and that is unfortunate. Hi, hello. For anyone who does not know me, my name is Mary Kathleen. I'm an evidential psychic medium, intuitive, animal communicator, and teacher here on my channel. I enjoy nothing more but to help teach and guide everyday people to know that they do not need a psychic medium like me to communicate with their loved ones on the other side. If this is something you're interested in, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. I try to post at least a couple of times a month. I am hoping to post more often going forward. Like I said, there is a new brand of bullies on the internet within at least my little corner of the internet, but I feel like within the spiritual community at large, and that is atheists. They have been coming after my content lately, the last couple of months. It started around Thanksgiving, calling what I do a scam, calling me a scammer.
You're sick. She's a sick, horrible person.
And saying that I am anti-science. And it's so interesting to me. I feel like this anti-science rhetoric is something that has come to light. This is a rhetoric that is sort of new since COVID. So people calling one another anti-science. And it's so interesting because the world of science has become more and more colluded. I would say the past 25 years. Science is not actually science anymore because scientific studies are often bought and paid for by special interest groups. And I'm not just talking about medical science. I'm talking about science across the board. Scientific studies are not often conducted in an ethical manner anymore. And I'm talking about peer-reviewed scientific studies. You really need to study the methodology of what you're reading. Make sure it's on the up and up. You need to look at who funded every study. Science is not simply to be taken at face value anymore. And again, this is not some conspiracy theory.
Not a conspiracy theory, conspiracy.
And I'm not just talking about medical related science here. I'm talking about overall science. Unfortunately, science is not what it used to be. That is the way of the world right now. And that's kind of thanks to money, right? And thanks to probably the inception of the internet. Once the internet came to be, science, just like everything else in life, was affected.
Where science and mathematics are the real magic.
You really need to be careful what you're reading. And you really need to follow the digital trail, the paper trail, and the money trail of everything you read out there. And that includes scientific studies. That said, those who say that topics or people are anti-science, such as atheists who say that religion or spirituality or psychic mediumship is anti-science, that anti-science rhetoric has become a buzzword or a buzz phrasing of the last couple of years. And it is trying to divert us away from further investigating. It's sort of doing the same thing that religious people are doing. So when the religious individuals come at psychic mediums or come at spiritual individuals and say, you need to find Jesus, you need to realize you're talking to demons, what are they trying to do? They're trying to instill fear, and they are trying to divert us from questioning and analyzing.
Who are you to question the will of God?
What we were taught within religion, right? So when people who are saying they are atheists or people who are pushing the anti-science rhetoric come at us and say, you are a scammer and you are anti-science for believing in spirituality or psychic mediumship. Mediums are anti-science. What are they doing? They are trying to instill fear, and they're trying to drive us away from critical thinking. They are trying to stop us from questioning what anything labeled with the word science says.
Our plan has worked perfectly for when the United Atheist League attacks the United Atheist Alliance. Science. Our answer to the great question shall prevail. Hail science! Hail science! Hail science!
And the very premise of science says that we can question.
There's nothing wrong with the science here.
Perhaps you mean a different thing than I do when you say science.
The very premise of science says that we have the ability to question what is in front of us. Just because something is written in print or has somebody's name slapped across the top of it doesn't mean that we cannot dig to where it came from, dig into its methodologies, or question what may have come before that study, what could further be studied beyond that, or where the money came from. Calling somebody anti-science is the very antithesis of science itself. Science has become incredibly colluded, and people who come at psychic mediums are not open-minded, right? And people who call others anti-science shouldn't be practicing science. People who label others as anti-science shouldn't be calling themselves scientists. Now, there have been a number of peer-reviewed studies actually published regarding psychic mediumship. Are they ironclad? Not necessarily. They're case studies, but they're more than we had before. And this is exciting because at least mediumship is being invited into the world of science and scientific study by some schools of thought, by some scientists. There are also a few institutes out there, scientific institutes, that are going down the road of studying psychics, studying mediumship, and conducting research. We have a ways to go, but at least we are getting the ball rolling. At least we are beginning to study further NDEs, mediumship, the afterlife, consciousness. We only have the future, and it is exponential as to where we could go from here. Now, do I feel that everyone needs to believe in mediumship? No. Do I feel everybody needs to believe in God or a creator? No. Do I feel like everybody should be kind? Yes. Do I want people to ask themselves questions? Yes. Listen, I used to be all about the data. Before mediumship, my position, I literally worked with data for a living. I wrote, designed, created, managed KPIs for a multi-million-dollar worldwide company. I was responsible for the KPIs. I presented them to the CEOs, CFOs, vice presidents of the company. If the data did not show something, then that something was not true. I was very black and white. I was very analytically minded. I was very data driven. And believe it or not, I myself also used to be very judgmental. Even I used to be a very angry person. I used to be almost like some of these people who come after me on the internet.
Like very reserved and closed off and rude.
And so I understand them in certain ways because I used to be them. But I'm also in a different place now. So I understand how asking questions and not simply stopping at what appears to be a wall of where you think the data stops or where you think the data takes you, and discounting feelings or ignoring feelings. I understand how making little shifts and acknowledging that there's more to you and more beyond the data that's simply in front of your face that maybe data can shift. I understand that it's okay to admit that life can change, that perception can change, that you can change, that there is no hill to die on, that hills to die on can erode. I understand that that is okay, and that you can never know if where you're standing today will be where you're standing 5 years from now. Nobody knows that for certain. Nobody knows that better than me. I used to be that person that I just described. And 10 years later, I am the complete polar opposite. Complete polar opposite. Is that old version of me still in here? That data-driven version of me still in here? Yes. But is the new version of me also integrated? Yes. Is that possible for everyone? Yes. But is accepting that is possible a necessity in order to get there? Yes. And here's the thing. We're here to ask questions. We're not here to look at charts and graphs and go to sleep with them under our pillow. At the end of the day, and at the beginning of the day, we look in the mirror. Who are you looking at?
Then you're gonna look yourself in the mirror and you're gonna ask yourself, who is that girl I see staring straight back at me?
And why are you that person? No matter how scientifically minded you are or how black and white you are, you have emotion. You have thoughts and feelings. And that is something that a lot of us tend to forget. I never, in a million years, I never ever dreamed that I would be working in this scope. I thought that I would be working that data-driven corporate life until I retired, my 60s or 70s somewhere. So the people who call me a scammer, that I set out to scam people, why would I want to do that? Who would want that life? I didn't choose this. This found me. I think that the idea that psychic mediums are scammers, and I'm not saying that there aren't some out there. There are. I don't even know where it comes from, but it certainly isn't what I'm doing. Because if it were, I would not have chosen this way to scam people, trust me. And finally, this brings me to the Big Bang. The Big Bang Theory as the creation of the universe, which is what the atheists who come after me believe and always point to. And ironically, I support the Big Bang Theory. The Big Bang Theory makes absolute sense, and I'm pretty certain that that's how we are here. I'm pretty certain that the Big Bang Theory occurred. So the atheists who come after me and call me a scammer, and I agree that the Big Bang Theory was real. The one-upping and coming after me, that doesn't really disprove mediumship or spirituality. But what's interesting is that nobody, when they're spewing the anti-science rhetoric, really ever stops to think and take things a little bit further, okay? And I don't talk on YouTube about it much, but I homeschool my kids, my two younger ones. My high schooler who's going to graduate this year, he's finishing in the public school system. And I homeschool my two younger ones, and which is something else I never, ever thought I would be doing. We had to make the choice due to unforeseen circumstances. Never wanted to homeschool, never thought I would be homeschooling. So goes to show where you are now in life. 5 years from now, things could be totally different. But we were learning in our homeschool a couple weeks ago about the solar system. And we were learning about the Big Bang Theory. And my 9-year-old said, but how did the Big Bang happen? And I said, well, nobody really knows for sure. And he said, but you can't create something from nothing. That's the main belief of science. You can't create something from nothing. And I said, well, that's where people decide if they believe in God or don't believe in God, that the Big Bang either just happened or somebody created it, such as God. Because I don't lead my kids, they can decide what they want to believe. And he said, but you can't create something from nothing, meaning if there is no creator, where did the Big Bang come from? And that's a very good question. If a 9-year-old can ask it, why aren't more adults asking it? If you can't create something from nothing, where did the Big Bang happen? And maybe some of my more scientifically minded folks, my physicist folks, have some very cyclical answers, because I've seen some answers that are just a bunch of word salads thrown together that really talk in circles about this.
This explains everything, even the Big Bang that created the universe. All that's left is the mathematics.
Professor, you did it! You solved the problem that baffled Einstein and drove Stephen Hawking to quit physics and become a cartoon voice actor.
This is the greatest moment in scientific history.
But at the end of the day, you still go back to, you cannot create something from nothing. Do I believe? You have to believe that. You can believe whatever you want. You can believe that the Big Bang was created from nothing and there is no creator, there is no God. But we're still believing that the Big Bang was created by energy. And you still are believing in science, saying that energy cannot be created nor destroyed. So you are still believing that consciousness exists. So you are still believing in something, right? You don't need to believe in God, a creator, but I do feel that you still need to ask some additional questions. Just beyond, we're walking in these bodies that have thought and consciousness. When we die, the bodies go into the ground. The energy that was in the bodies is converted into the soil and the energy of the earth. Where does the energy that was in the consciousness of thought go? I still think you need to ask yourself some additional questions, even if you don't believe in a creator, a man, so on and so forth, right? And you need to ask yourself about consciousness at the beginning of creation, whether you think something was created from nothing or not. Where did consciousness come into play? There's some additional questions, which goes back to, you can't point to an anti-science rhetoric and point at people like me, call us anti-science, while declaring yourself solely scientific, but not question yourself and not continually test various theories and talk down to people like me and tell us we're wrong, absolutely and wholly wrong. At the end of the day, I just want everybody to be able to believe what they want to believe, and everyone to be kind to one another. And I want everybody to live a life freely, recognizing that change is abundant and we can all change, including me, including you, including your neighbor, and including the person sitting next to you at the stoplight. We can all change. Life and thought and beliefs are evolving, and that is beautiful. Until next time, this is the video YouTube feels you should watch next. Much love. Bye.